Hello, welcome to episode 258 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
We are in this is our post-Christmas episode.
Yeah.
You have got me pulled away from Baldur's Gate 3.
Consider yourself lucky.
Yes. And Gavin is currently playing with perhaps all the Hot Wheels in North America, it would seem. So he's doing well, but you got me, and you got James with some post-Christmas sickness from being around children.
Crud, yeah. Not used to those, the inferiors.
The inferiors. Yes, the inferiors have a way of infecting us with like everything.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk a little bit about this year in Magic.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a year in review episode. Just kind of talk about what happened, some of the important stuff, and do a quick recap. It's a little bit awkward this year. Normally, it feels like we've had more time to put this episode together in the past.
Yes.
Like, I think there was like an extra week in here somewhere that we didn't get this year.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is like there's always a new set. There's always, I mean, it's the perpetual hype.
Yeah.
And then Wizards went all corporate on us. Or Hasbro did, and we spent a week talking about corporate Hasbro.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, X, email, all that stuff, all those links are in the description below. Show ideas, anything like that. I guess that we're gonna be saved because air quotes because Karlov Manor should drop soon.
Yeah, that's like late January, early February, right?
Yeah.
So we should be like into mechanics and spoilers before you know
Very soon, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to hear about, let us know. We're always up to do topics that you guys request. We had a couple people reach out specifically for our episode last week. They wanted to hear our thoughts on the layoffs, so that's why we did that episode. If there's anything else you guys want to hear about, let us know. We'll try and squeeze it in between the multitude of set releases that we're going to have in 2024.
Yeah.
If you're looking to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is really easy, doesn't cost you guys anything, and it's using our TCG Player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Surf on over to TCG Player, and anything that you purchase after following that link will help to support the show and doesn't cost you guys anything extra and really helps us out. So we'd appreciate that. If you want to support us more directly, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is where you can do that. Patrons get access to our show notes. They get access to about another hour's worth of content out of us every week in the form of our pre-show. And when I have cool stuff to send out to you guys, you'll be on my mailing list for when I send that out. Or if you don't care about any of that and you just want to support the show, you can do that too. Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG and chip a couple bucks in.
We would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. So,
year in review.
We kind of first we are going to take the year and kind of trim it down to I deem this sets we cared about.
Sure.
And so I would say that the sets we cared about were the standard sets. So let's say your 4.5 sets, 4 1/4 sets that were released this year.
If you include Aftermath.
Yeah. And then just because we have played a reasonable amount of Modern in our lives, I feel like we kind of have to care a little bit about Lord of the Rings since it went directly into Modern. So we're kind of going to focus our discussion on those 5 sets, the standard sets, and...
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings was a little unique also in the fact that it even though it went directly into modern and kind of bypassed normal organic means of being introduced into formats, it was also on Arena. So I think that exposed a lot more people to the set than maybe like a Modern Horizon set would have.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know we're not like exclusively an Arena podcast, but I do tend to think like, okay, like I get most of my Magic exposure now from Arena, and I figure a lot of people are in a similar boat.
Yep.
So things that come to Arena kind of automatically have a little bit more oomph behind them.
Yep.
A little bit more interest.
Yep.
So, I now kind of want to add a fourth thing to my like. What are the kind of key developments of the year?
Well, sure. Add a fourth thing.
We'll add a fourth thing here. We'll get to that in a second. So the first is we got a new card type.
We did for the first time in a long time. What was the last time we got a new card type?
Sagas?
Were sagas really a new card type, or were they just that was a new subtype, right? Because they're still
I guess so, yeah, they're still enchantments. Yeah, fair. Planeswalker, right?
I think so.
Is there something? Because like we had vehicles as a subtype,
right?
So when I came back to Magic, M15ish, there were the thing that was new that I didn't understand was equipment.
Okay, well, Planeswalkers were new for me.
Equipment and Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, and like when I came back, equipment was a little bit easier to wrap my head around, though, because even like way back when I was a kid, there were cards that kind of functioned like equipment currently does. But there was nothing that functioned like a Planeswalker.
True. And since then, I would say we've gotten vehicles, which is an artifact subtype, sagas, and then I think it's then this is probably the first new card type since Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal. It felt like it was the way they did the sieges, where you like have to attack them down when they had, they're not loyalty counters, whatever counters.
I think they were battle counters, weren't they?
Something.
Yeah.
You could very well be right. I don't know. Number gets small, good.
Yep.
Number big, bad.
Yep.
I think it was kind of a limited mechanic. Right, it played pretty well in limited.
Yeah.
And because it gave you an additional thing to think about when you went to combat. Right? Most times like it was just like, attack face, but now you have, should I attack face or should I attack the battle to gain some long-term advantage?
Yeah, get some value.
And it just depends, right? Like on the situation and whatnot. So that was good. And I'd say for constructed, for the most part, they're played for their front half.
Yeah.
Or their front side, right? Whatever the effect is on the front is while you're playing them, and maybe you flip it, maybe you don't. Right? So, but as like a limited mechanic, I think they're pretty good. And other than Invasion of Gabakhan, they really haven't had that big of an impact on constructed. I guess like Invasion of Zendikar, but like that's just that would be the same if it was explosive vegetation.
I've seen a couple lists that are running. Is it Ixalan? That's like Green Suns kind of.
It's Oath of Nissa, but it sees 5 cards instead of 3.
Maybe that's not. What's the one that's X green or whatever?
That is Invasion of Ikoria.
Oh, Ikoria, that's right.
Yes, I guess I have seen that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's kind of like finale.
Yeah.
Of Devastation. But like a few of them have seen play. But for the most part, it's for their front set. It's like whatever that spell is.
Yeah, and like just to be clear, these are specific to sieges. We don't know if any other kind of battles are going to work the same. Most assuredly, they're not going to work the same. And they've already confirmed that there are other types of battles.
There are plans for other types of battles.
Yeah. So maybe different ones play differently.
Yeah. And then have here that everything is an artifact.
Yeah, like I don't know. I know when we were talking about this a little bit in the pre-show, you kind of alluded to the fact that this was kind of a design choice. And I don't know that that's 100% true. That might be kind of a result of the sorts of sets that we had this year, because there was a lot of like artifact themes in the sets.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Like it just felt that over the course of Magic's history, like there's not been. I mean, maybe outside of like Shards block, a ton of artifacts that are colored.
Yeah.
Right. And over the last few years, it's been like more and more and more. And now this year, you had like all the colored creatures in 1 and in March because like we Phyrexian now.
Right.
Right. And
yeah,
then,
but like that was a thing in New Phyrexia too, though.
Yeah. And then you have like in Ixalan, you had all the things that would normally be spells that were artifacts, right? Like one on the white,
again, that
go
was
get a plant.
For like mechanic reasons, though, so you could turn on your craft or whatever. Like I think these were specific to like the reason that everything's an artifact is kind of specific to the sets that we had, not necessarily like, ooh, we're just gonna make everything an artifact now.
Yeah, I agree that there was a like thematic mechanical reason to do it, but it is very different than Magic has been.
Oh, for sure.
In the past, right? Yeah. Like, so when we were in Theros, things were enchantments.
Yep.
But then like you didn't have boatloads of enchantment creatures.
Yeah. In
the subsequent sets.
Correct.
You didn't have like we've only had I think 1 enchantment equipment. Right? Remember Elspeth's sword from the first Theros?
Godsend?
Yeah, Godsend. It was an enchantment equipment.
Yeah.
Or enchantment artifact equipment. Right? We didn't have a bunch of like random enchantments after Theros Beyond Death.
Yeah.
Right? But this year it was kind of like, well, we did artifacts in March and we did artifact and it wasn't like a strong like artifacts matter theme and like limited. There was one, like there was like blue-white artifacts matter.
Yeah.
In one of them. But it just seemed like every set this year it was just like, hey, we're gonna like throw, I don't know, like 35 artifacts in here.
Yeah. And
like they're gonna be all different colors. So not rightly or wrongly or like, oh hey, this was a bad choice. It was just like this has been a year, where if you look back, you're like, wow, there are way more artifacts floating around as like random creatures and stuff than I think most years in Magic. Then we went years where we weren't allowed to have creature lands.
Yeah. This kind of changed during Fire Design also, though, because we had, I forget which standard it was, but we had a standard where there were 3 colorless creature lands like in standard.
There was
Crawling
Faceless
Barrens,
Haven,
Faceless Haven.
Crawling Barrens.
I think there was another one too.
I can't remember the other one. But I remember Faceless Haven, Crawling Barrens, and then before that we had the one from War of the Spark.
Yeah.
That like took less to activate if you controlled a planeswalker.
The Mobilized Garrison?
That's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Mobilized District.
That's what it was. Yep.
And when it came on to play in Arena, it was like do 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 do, and like people talked. Yeah. There was like a murmur of people in the background. But this year we got a complete cycle of creature dual lands.
Yeah, so all 10 pairs we got.
And
that's never happened.
No, not in the same year, not at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it took between Zendikar and Battle for Zendikar to get a whole cycle printed period.
Oh yeah, you're right. That was like 10 years apart.
Yeah.
If not like more. And so and some of them are pretty good.
Which one's your favorite?
Probably the green black one. What is it? I'm looking. Hidden Cottage. Is that what it's called?
Restless Cottage.
Restless Cottage.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I like that one as well.
But we also have Mishra's Foundry, which I forgot we had.
Yep.
I made Mirix an honorary creature land.
Sure.
There are so many lands. There are 140 lands if you on Scryfall. And then like all the restless lands are pretty good.
Yep.
Oh, I guess they're all restless now. Restless Anchorage just gives blue-white decks like another way to get value out of their lands.
Yep.
And I would say that like I've seen Restless Anchorage, Restless Cottage, and to a lesser extent Restless Vinestock find their way into like Pioneer decks, and I think most of these have been in standard decks.
Yeah, I know I've seen colors. What's the blue-black one, the one that makes a shark?
Restless Reef.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
So like they're all pretty good, and like they are costed like
fairly, but not aggressively.
Yes, I think that's a good way. Like,
yep.
Like if you told me they knocked a mana off of them, then they'd all be too good.
Yep.
Like they're just kind of like right in the right spot. They turn the right dials.
Yep.
But this is a time where we've got 12 like actual creature lands because there's the cave as well, an uncommon. Plus then Mishra's whatever.
Yeah.
All in standard at the same time, and that's really unusual. Like that's something that kind of like sets this
not
kind
just
of
unusual,
apart.
has never happened before.
Yes,
like
has never happened before. Let's call it unprecedented.
We're going to have them in standard for two more years. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were in. Gosh, I can't think. They were in the two most recent sets.
Yeah,
so they're here for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
So they're basically here.
Hope you like
till the 8-year anniversary of the Casual Try Hard podcast.
We hope you'll all be around then.
Yeah, we'll be around. Gosh, Gavin will be like 8.
Wow.
No, will he? In 3, he'll be 6. Wild.
6.
And we also have Mirix, again, like honorary creature lands. So there's so many ways to get like creatures and value out of your lands.
And that doesn't count any more that they print.
Yeah, any more that they print. If they do some like twist on like channel or some other like way to get value out of your lands. So yeah, just a very kind of different like kind of standard landscape. And it like, it trickles down to Pioneer as well. Like Pioneer went from like having like no playable creature lands,
right,
to like, having just the monocolored playable lands be playable, to now kind of like a bunch of stuff.
Like mana bases and Pioneer in general, I think got a huge boost this year because you have the Scars Fast lands also. Like that.
Yeah,
I think has changed the format.
Like you just get to like have really good mana like all the time.
Basically the best you could hope for without fetches.
And then my fourth thing, kind of a continuation of recent trends, is this is another year where we just get tons of game objects.
Oh yeah.
Like if just there were mites. There were map tokens. There were food in both Lord of the Rings and Wilds. And was there
We had treasures.
Treasures.
Yeah.
It just feels like there's always like a new game object that we are making.
I wouldn't expect that to change anytime soon either.
No.
I think that GameObjects.deck is a good archetype for limited. And I think that it's something that people enjoy playing. So I wouldn't expect them to change that anytime soon. I also think it's like design space that they haven't used all up yet either.
Yes. I think that like after doing the game for 30 years, you run out of things that you can write on the card.
Right.
So then you have to start making the card make a second card.
Yeah.
Or you have to like make the card have a back.
Right.
That has words on it. Right. To kind of get more and more design space and more things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just game objects everywhere.
Yep.
All right. So I went through, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I went through those 5 sets and I just went like Scryfall, card gallery, and just scrolled through and like wrote down cards that like have made an impact on, for the most part, I tried to look at like kind of like standard to modern, or like standard to maybe legacy, if something went back that far. Just cards that like matter across these formats. For constructed formats.
Competitive formats.
Yes. So like you have Mycosynth Gardens, the land that lets you copy artifacts. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
I told you I was trying to keep up while you were making the show notes, because that was all my brain could handle.
Right, like this has shown up in like Amulet Titan in Modern.
Mm-hmm.
And just does like kind of random things in, I think mainly it's there. I think I've seen it in Pioneer once or twice, or I've played it once or twice. But it does just kind of do kind of neat random things in formats where like you have Urza Saga.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I would like another copy of this thing that Urza Saga got me. Convenient.
Yep. Or Construct.
Or yeah.
Oh no, I guess it's non-token, so you can't.
Non-token, yeah. See, they thought about that. Like, do we want Urza Saga to make 3 constructs? Probably bad.
Yeah.
Because I guess that'd be like weird rules if it was a token, a land that became a token.
Yeah, I mean it wouldn't do what you wanted it to do anyway, because it like you have to tap it to do the thing. So
yeah. All right, and then we have a Skrelv Defector Mite.
Mm-hmm.
Mother of Runes at Home is still good enough. It's been like in the mono white aggro decks and the Esper Legend decks in Standard.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned when we were talking about it in the pre-show, it's been in the Amalia decks.
I've seen it. We were going over Amalia lists, and like it's in one of the Amalia lists, which like makes a lot of sense, making your Amalia unblockable.
Yep.
It takes some work for your Amalia to not kill it first, but you could, in theory, make your Amalia unblockable.
Yep.
And it's like in the Pioneer mono white deck sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like Mother of Runes, even like bad Mother of Runes is still good.
Yeah, still Mother of Runes.
Still Mother of Runes. Then I was trying to think of what like I was originally thinking of like trying to figure out the card of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next card is probably the card of the year.
Okay.
In terms of impact, and that would be Atraxa Grand Unifier.
Yeah, I can't think of a splashier card, that's for sure.
I mean, think about what this card did. It was in like it's been in the best standard deck when the best standard deck has changed.
Yeah.
Like, so if you think way back to when it first came out, it was the Gixis, the 5-mana saga with Rita Head that could like go get a card.
Yeah.
Could like Thoughtseize your opponent, go get a card, and then last chapter was reanimate something.
Yeah.
And you would just like try to get your Atraxa in the graveyard and then get it back on turn 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was Atraxa's home. And then we're now in the domain / like angels standard.
Yep.
where your like whole game plan is to rap. Yo, what up, homie? The ramp into Atraxa.
Yeah.
And maybe you play like the whatever the 2 white angel with red black kicker.
Oh yeah.
Along the way to like stabilize. That's why it's called angels, because you play 2 angels and then a bunch of things that ramp into Atraxa.
Yeah.
And card sees play in Modern. It's a reanimation target there.
Mm-hmm.
It has found its way into Legacy Reanimator.
Yep.
People show and tell it in. There was a brief time where it was getting played. They were like Bant natural order decks, where your natural order target was Atraxa. Where you're like kind of a grindy mid-range deck. You're not like elves getting whatever is Craterhoof Behemoth. You get Atraxa and you refill, and then you win the game because you have a 7/7.
Yep.
It
also has one more unique thing about it.
It's what introduced battles.
Yep. It did something that hadn't been done since Tarmogoyf in Future Sight.
Yeah. It like referred to a card type that did not exist.
Yep.
And then we all got to go, what's a battle?
What's a battle?
But yeah, like Atraxa has seen play across like every format.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a pretty good candidate for card of the year.
Has been.
I mean, there's a couple more that I think give it a run for the money, but
yeah, I think it's the card that, at least in like, regardless of the like 60 card constructed format you play,
mm-hmm.
you're going to run into in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's kind of like fixed Gristlebrand, but it's still super broken. Like, you can't fix Gristlebrand and make it okay.
This is as close as you get.
This is kind of as close as you get. Like, oh, I get to draw 5 cards.
Yeah.
The turn comes into play. Okay, cool. That's fine. I can't draw 14, but I can draw 5, and then have a thing that if you don't kill, you can never attack me. Amazing.
Is this also the biggest creature with Death Touch? Like, there's a point on a card where like the power and toughness like doesn't matter if you have Death Touch because it's just going to kill everything anyway.
Like, does it matter that this
has Death Touch?
I don't think so.
They just threw it on there because they needed a black keyword.
I think, doesn't the original Atraxa have Death Touch? Like the one that is just
the commander one?
The commander one?
Maybe.
Like, I think it has Death Touch. So I think that was the black keyword. When it was a 4/4, it made more sense.
Yeah.
And now that she's hit the steroids or whatever and it's a 7/7, right? Like, what are you going to give it menace? Like, you can't really. Let me see here. Is there a creature? Can I find? How can I do this? I know I've done this before. Can I? Oh, there we go. I want power
greater than
equal
7.
to greater than 7. Oh, there are 2.
Oh, okay.
There is Void Beckoner.
Okay.
An 8-mana 8/8 Death Touch. Also Godzilla Death Corona. Rest in peace. And then Shelob.
Okay.
The Lord of the Rings Spider Demon is an 8/8.
Okay.
So second largest.
I
Death
think once you get up that big, Death Touch is kind of irrelevant.
Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But I think that Atraxa is going to be the card that is the card that is going to be like most remembered from this year. Though the next card could also maybe take that crown.
Okay.
It's Mom.
The next card is Mom. Yep.
So Ella Storm Mother of Machines, the card that all the Commander people were like, "Don't print this."
And they printed it anyway.
And it doesn't seem like it's done that much to Commander. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't super follow Commander, so I'm not.
Yeah. I don't see angry tweets about how Elish Norn has ruined everything.
I really don't see many angry tweets about Commander in general anymore. I wonder if something happened, or maybe my algorithm just changed.
You haven't paid Elon $7.99 or whatever, so like you don't get maybe that's secretly like this is like secretly an upside for all of us that like we aren't in the terrible angry discourse anymore.
Maybe
because we haven't paid Elon the money. Doubles up all of your triggered abilities or ETB abilities.
Encounters your opponents.
And encounters your opponents. Has shown up in standard some, kind of on the fringes, in Pioneer in the Fires, Enigmatic Fires decks, which is still around.
Yep.
There are just some decks that like you play it and you can never win. If your opponent plays it, you can never win.
Like your
and if you play Elementals can never beat it. Yep. The Enigmatic Incarnation deck can never beat it. Yep. If you play it and then before your opponent, or if you both have one out, nothing happens. You just like play a bunch of like overcosted idiots that don't do anything.
You're in an awkward limited game.
Yes. Like, how do I triple block? I don't know how to do this. Is
that a thing I'm allowed to do anymore?
Yeah, can I do that? Just what is Bushido and how is it going to hurt me? But
banding.
Yeah, like the banding. But yeah, so Elish Norn, like with huge splashy card, it is super awkward again that like sometimes you play it and like the game ends.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
That's what Magic is nowadays.
That's what Magic is. I played my Haymaker.
Yep.
I win.
Yep.
Yay! And then we have Glissa, Sunseeker.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird one. I really didn't... I mean, I know we talked about this card in our set review episode a little bit, but I really didn't expect it to take off the way it did.
Yeah, really. Like, it kind of only has, like, realistically, like, one of the options. It's basically, like, 1 black-green unblockable. When it deals combat damage, lose a life, draw a card. It's basically a unblockable Ophidian.
Yeah, I mean, I have absolutely blown stuff up with it before.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of the time you're drawing the card.
Yeah.
And then, like, you get the occasional, like, Fable or, like, a Leyline Binding, and you feel like a god. Yeah. But for the most part, it's just, it is, I think, like, looking at it, like, its sizing's not great. You're, like, kind of everything kills it. Like, a Revolted Fatal Push gets it.
Right.
Lightning Strike gets it. Like, you know, but...
Right, but it's one of those cards that if you don't answer it, though, it just runs away with the game.
Exactly. You just lose. And it's often paired with Shieldred, where you're going to Glissa into Shieldred, and then you're actually drawing a card and gaining a life.
Right.
In the exchange, which is pretty good. So, but, like, this is kind of made... This and a couple other cards have kind of made the green-black, like, rock deck kind of the, you know, the little brother to, like, Rakdos in, like, Pioneer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think the green-black deck plays very similar to that deck.
Oh, definitely
but kind of has different strengths and different weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, it's kind of in contention for that, like, it's like the tier 2 mid-range deck, which is like a fine place to be. And I guess I don't know what card it needs to be. Well, it needs Fable the Mirror Breaker, but other than Fable the Mirror Breaker, right? Like, I know people have been experimenting with Smuggler's Copter since it's been unbanned, but like green-black is a good standard deck. Green-black is a pretty decent Pioneer deck, and Glissa is a big part of that.
Yep.
Right? Like, I think if we didn't have Glissa, neither of those decks would exist. I don't think the rest of it is good enough around it.
Makes sense to me. So before we continue here,
okay.
I just want to let you know that you have selected 32 cards.
We may not have to talk about all of them.
Okay.
I'll talk about 6, but not 7. How about that?
Okay, sure.
And 6 is super short. It's Gleeful Demolition.
Mm-hmm.
The improved, what is it?
Kuldotha Rebirth.
Rebirth, yes. Blow up an artifact, make a bunch of 1/1s.
Yep.
It basically made an entire archetype.
Mm-hmm.
It had a little bit of help, but it made the Boros Convoke archetype in Pioneer thing.
Yeah, it's a cool card.
It's a cool card. Yeah, that's it. It's a cool card.
That's it. And then you don't want to talk about Shieldred's Edict?
I mean, I think we can. You got me. Put it on the screen.
It's on the screen.
It is a very flexible, and like selective edict, more than we've ever had. Right, the fact that you can say token or non-token is huge.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the problem with edicts traditionally, is that when you give your opponent a choice, it's likely not good for you. Mm-hmm. But when you get to like fine tune their choice, it makes it a way better card.
Yes, and like, the last 2 cards, this is something I was going to point out. There's a lot of power in uncommons and even commons now that are finding their way into like competitive, like Pioneer and Standard, and even in Modern, right? Like Shieldred Edicts gets played in Modern and Legacy, right? And it's an uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best edict, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I bought cards for Amalia, and basically I was missing like 4 commons and 4 uncommons, and then 4 Amalias. But everything else in the deck is like a common.
Yeah.
Or an uncommon. Like there's a lot more power in those cards than there used to be.
Yep.
All right. So that was Phyrexian Aloe one. Now we move on to March of the Machine. Fairy Mastermind 1. Yuta Takahashi, like when he won the World Championship, was like one of the purest reactions. And this was during COVID, so he was like, he won the World Championships like in his bedroom,
right?
Which is less than desirable. But like, this card 2/1 Flash Flyer is just really good. Went into the Rogues deck, like it's kind of fringy in Pioneer, and I think that it, in a card we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is kind of illustrate how they've just like, we get a bunch of extra keywords, and one of the extra keywords they love throwing on things now is Flash.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to prop up an archetype.
Or just like, hey man, we made like control too good. We have to like figure out a way to tax their mana.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's definitely, they're trying to make a Flash deck happen. Knight Errant of Eos.
Yeah, this is one we talked about quite a bit during the pre-show too.
Yes, but goes with Gleeful Demolition and like makes the Boros Convoke deck happen. Like that, the Boros Convoke deck was maybe a thing, but once Knight Errant of Eos came out is when it became a thing. And like, just a way to, if you have a board, to kind of like fill your hand back up to keep going, or like get down a big threat quick, refill your hand, and then be like, you have to deal with my board, knowing that I have 2 cards in hand that can make things happen, is really good.
Yep. And then we have Atali, the new Atali, Primal Conqueror.
Yeah.
Another key part of Reanimator shenanigans.
Reanimator shenanigans in, again, multiple formats. And, when there was the brief invasion of Allura deck, like this is a thing that you would spin into, right? If you ramp into this and like resolve it, you don't always win, but it becomes very difficult to lose.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to lose.
This is another one of those cards that like you're just gonna see in older formats, anywhere you can cheat it in, it ends up being good.
Yeah.
So
here goes. This is your other game object.
This is my other game. Oh, that's right. Incubator tokens.
Yep.
That was the other game object. I think every set gave us a game object.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we have Sunfall. This is kind of the Wizards being like, we know we put indestructible on cards, and cards give things indestructible. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Here's 5 mana, exile all creatures, and then give you a beater so the game ends.
Yeah.
Right?
Kinda
like,
nuts.
would you like to take care of the board and then have a way to win? Here you go.
Yeah. This is playing a completely different game than Fumigate was.
I gained 3 life with Fumigate? Sweet. It's like, oh no, I made a 3/3 that's going to win the game after I counter all of your stuff.
Right. And exiled all your indestructibles.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we've had, you know, indestructible as a keyword for a long time, and it matters less and less with like Leyline Binding and Sunfall and all of these things at exile. And like Sunfall and Farewell, like they see play, well, Sunfall sees play in Pioneer a little bit. Like you have your split of like Supreme Verdict, Sunfall, and Farewell. Like how do you like want to build your like sweeper package setup? Yeah. And
also
Sunfall
has some
fits
pretty
into
sick flavor text.
Yes.
Let the light scour away your imperfect flesh.
Yeah. And like it is one of like the hard limits on standard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to have a way to deal with Sunfall.
Yep.
In your like creature deck. Like there has to be some sort of interaction in the hand, counterspell, something, because like this is a card that you know you have to deal with.
Yep. Next one we have is Nissa Resurgent Animist. This card's sweet.
So, card is sweet, right? This is the landfall. This is like a 3/3 Lotus Cobra for 3.
Yeah.
That if you get 2 lands to come into play, you get to go like reveal it. You get to put an elf or an elemental from your deck into your hand.
Yep.
Right, like Nissa was usually the only elf.
Mm-hmm.
So this saw play in Modern when elementals, like 4-color elementals, was a deck.
Yeah.
And like as the way to like keep filling your hand up and like keeping things going. It seen play in Pioneer / Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
In my elementals deck, in other people's elementals decks, right? It's just a great kind of like glue card that like does everything an elemental shell wants to do.
Oh yeah, rewards you for it and keeps it going.
Yep. And then we have Copper Coat Vanguard.
Yeah, another piece for humans.
Yeah, like makes your humans hard to kill. Like this and Athalia.
Yeah,
just makes it so targeted removal is pretty much uncastable against you.
And if they do try and use it, like you're so far ahead by the time they can cast it that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like you're like, okay, fine. Like I got in, you know, the curve of like 1 into Thalia into this, and you're attacking for like 6 on turn 3.
Yeah.
Or like 1 this and then what is her name? 1 white star 4 that makes a 1/1 when someone attacks.
Yeah.
Can't think of it. It begins with an A, I think, but I can't think of it. Yeah, like that is a really powerful curve as well.
Yeah.
Right, it makes your Adeline.
Yep.
Adeline harder to kill, so you know you're gonna get that token.
Yep.
And it makes the token a 2/1. Like it makes the token a real threat.
Mm-hmm. Close the game out quick.
Yeah. So, like, this is the kind of thing that, like, allows humans to be a deck in Standard, and it's kind of been, like, a part of Standard, like, the whole time, and then in Pioneer as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think these, you were talking about Atraxa for Card of the Year. I think these next 2 are pretty high contenders for Card of the Year as well.
You're probably, in retrospect... Card of the Year for Standard only sets. There we go.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Let's get real narrow.
Okay.
So
Next up, we have Orcish Bowmasters. I don't even know if there's anything that has to be said about Bowmasters. It's anywhere it's legal, it sees 1 metric ton of play.
It is like a 4 of. Like, it is much like Deathrite was the reason to play black.
Mm-hmm.
Orcish Bowmasters is the reason that decks are black.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, well, Thoughtseize is good, but I also get Thoughtseize and Bowmasters. Oh, I have to be black.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to play Thoughtseize, but I have to play Bowmaster.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
right?
This supplants Bob as like the best black 2-drop, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't even think it's a contest.
I mean, you can't play Bob because it's a 2/1.
Because of Bowmasters?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I resolve my Dark Confidant.
Yeah.
End of your turn, I will flash in my Bowmasters and kill your Dark Confidant.
And make a dude.
Yeah, make it dude. I will 3 of 4/1 you.
Yeah.
And like the 1/1 doesn't seem like a lot, but and things have changed over the years. But there was a time where like young Pyromancer get a 1/1,
mm-hmm.
and that 1/1 would like matter in like solo legacy games.
Yeah.
And now you're not soloing legacy games of the 1/1 now, but that 1 does end up mattering.
It does. Well, and the 1/1 also a lot of times doesn't stay a 1/1.
Yes, gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then okay, you are right.
Yeah.
The real card of the year.
The One Ring.
The $2.5 million card of the year.
Sure. Yeah.
The One Ring.
Unlike the last card, is a reason to play any color deck.
It's a reason to play lands.
Yeah.
It does everything you could want. I think after a while we said it was kind of like a Time Walk and a Necropotent stuck together.
Yep.
Right? Like you resolve it and you almost always draw 3 cards, lose 1 life.
Mm-hmm.
And fog your opponent for a turn.
Yep. Usually
Seems
that's
pretty
enough
good.
time for you to turn the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like is played everywhere where Magic the Gathering cards are played and it's legal.
That is correct.
I've seen less of it in Modern. Like just watching like Modern content.
Yeah.
But
do you think that's because it's the Modern content you're watching, or is it actually less prevalent now?
I'm seeing
that's kind of the weird thing about streamers, though, right? Because
they like gravitate to a thing.
Yeah, or if they're getting sick of it, they just won't play it anymore. Like if you're watching Aspiring Spike, like he's probably over One Ring decks at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's like it feels like there are less on the other side too.
Okay.
And it could just kind of be that since since Fury went away.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out what you want to play. Like, you know, I think it's still really good in Tron and things like that. But it seems like there's less of it, but also like Spike only played One Ring decks for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the One Ring, you are right, will be the card that people will look back on 2023.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, doesn't Post Malone have one of those?
What were you guys thinking? That's what they'll think.
Yeah. Why haven't we banned this yet?
Yeah.
It's
still in print, that's why.
It's still we had to move holiday boxes.
Yeah.
And then a cycle of commons from the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The land cyclers.
Yeah, the ones from Lord of the Rings. You want to talk about all 5 of these, or are there like 1 or 2 that you want to?
I think that like the big one is Lorien Revealed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right, so it's got island cycling, not basic land cycling, not basic island cycling. It's got island cycling, and the big thing here is island cycling for 1.
Yeah.
So it basically turns any of your lands into like evolving wilds.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Right? But it counts as a sorcery towards delirium.
It does.
Right? It helps, right? Like a turn where you go like fetch land, crack it, cycle for Lorien Revealed. You've got 2 types in your yard for like your DRC. You've got 2 cards in your yard for your Murktide Regent.
Yep.
Right? And then unlike Evolving Wilds, on turn 7, when you have 5 lands, you get 3 cards out of the deal.
Yeah.
So like this kind of shows, like we saw this in Ikoria, right? If you just slap 1 generic mana cycling on a card, it's probably too good. And these are all probably too good. Like Lorien Revealed gets played in Legacy and Modern Delver decks or Murktide decks. It's Trollakaza Doom gets played in like almost every black deck. Right, in Reanimator strategies, it's a 6/5 that has to be blocked by 3 things. So, like in Legacy, it's just unblockable for the most part.
Yep.
And it's a pretty quick clock as a 6/5. Oliphant and Generous Ent are perfectly good things to bring back with a Living End.
Absolutely.
And they let you fix your mana. Lorien Revealed does as well in Rhinos. Right? So, like, in Living End, they played Oliphant and Generous Ent as, like, we can shave lands. And, like, as long as I have 1 mana, I can basically fix my mana for anything else because Generous Ent gets a Stomping Ground. It gets a Breeding Pool.
Yep.
It gets my Ketria Triome.
Yep, gets whatever you need.
Right? And, like, is a thing to, like, bring back. So, like, these first 4, sorry, Eagles of the North, no one plays you. I was looking at like a list of like the most sold cards on TCG Player, and Lorien Revealed and Troll of Cosmic Doom were like number 1 or number 2.
Wow.
And then they had Eagles of the North. I'm like, what does this card even do? I was like, oh, this is the white one of the cycle. Oh.
Who's playing that?
Yeah, exactly. But like they've all enabled a bunch of different decks, like back in Legacy and Modern.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like huge for a common.
Yeah.
To see that much play. All right. Wilds.
Moving on to, I guess, probably the most impactful, arguably best card in Wilds.
Yeah. Up the Beanstalk. A 2-mana uncommon enchantment.
Yeah. Who'd have thought that would have turned Modern on its head?
Yeah, well, if you keep putting cost reductions on all of your stuff.
Yeah.
And alternative no mana costs on your things.
Right.
It turns out getting 5 mana value is pretty easy.
It is.
So, as we all know, Up the Beanstalk got banned in Modern because if you play Shardless Agent and what is he called? Bloodbraid Elf, and then Solitudes and Leyline Bindings and Furies, your opponent's not allowed to have any creatures, and you never run out of cards in your hand.
That
and
like
you will eventually win with whatever ham sandwich sticks.
Yep.
Like, I have a 3/2 lifelinker for 5 mana. I guess I will kill you with it now across 7 turns.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
Yeah, so kind of like with the Cascade decks, which this deck was the Cascade deck, right? Like, you have all of these cards that have high mana values that have these alternative costs that allow you to Bone Crush or Brazen Borrow or Force of Negation or Leyline. You have all these ways that you can still operate on turn 1 and turn 2, but not run afoul of the Cascade thing. So Beanstalk hasn't been as impactful in Pioneer, though I have seen it in like some Yorion decks and stuff. I think it's going to be. Right? Like, it only takes like another Leyline Binding or like equivalent thing. Like, there was the Artisan event. Historic Artisan event. and I played against Up the Beanstalk and like against a green black deck that had the like black spell that kills a creature. It costs 1 less for each creature in your yard.
Okay.
So they're like milling themselves and then like casting that for 1 mana with Up the Beanstalk.
That seems pretty good.
Right. Or like, you could be blue green and like Tolarian Terrors for cheap and Cryptic Serpents for cheap. Right? Where you're just like, kind of like blue red or blue or like the blue black like Phoenix deck.
Yeah.
Where you're getting your card advantage not from Phoenixes but from actual literal cards.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to come a point where they print another thing that makes that viable, that this card is going to be like, oh yeah, this is really good. Like it saw Legacy play. Like you play this and then you force of will your opponent's thing.
And you're not down a card anymore.
Yeah. Thank you for participating in this game. I win now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a seeming enough. It wasn't even good and limited.
Right.
Like that archetype was unplayable and limited.
Yeah.
But like the card, like one of the uncommons to make the limited archetype work that could not possibly ever work.
Yeah.
Was like one of the most impactful cards in Modern.
Yeah. Speaking about impactful cards, we have Beseech the Mirror. This was impactful in Legacy, right? Kind of reshaped the Storm decks.
Yes, all of them. So like you have there's a bunch of different flavors of Storm now.
Yeah.
Like there are mono black Storm decks because you can just beseech for your tendrils now.
Yep.
You don't need the red mana to go search for stuff. You have like the TES variants, the TES decks.
Yep.
Right now they're just the 4 Beseech the Mirror deck. They play, oh gosh, what is it called? The Teamer 1 and Teamer. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards.
Song of Creation.
Song of Creation, there we go. They play one of those now because you can get it with Beseech.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just, like, start casting zeros. And Beseech lets you have, like, easy turn 1 wins.
Yep.
Because they banned this little card called Yawgmoth's Will years ago. But Beseech the Mirror plus a one of Gaia's Will? I think it's what it was.
Yeah,
Gaia's Will?
the one from the original Modern Horizons?
Yeah, that has like...
suspend spell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that card, when it comes off suspend, is just Yawgmoth's Will.
Yep.
So you get it with Beseech and you cast Yawgmoth's Will, then you just cast your whole graveyard and win the game.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I get a bunch of mana, Beseech, go get my tendrils, kill you.
Yep.
And then you also...
less, right? Wasn't Yogg's Will 5?
Yogg's Will was 3.
Was it 3? I thought it was 5. What was I thinking?
Bargain.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yogg Will is 2 and a black, and Bargain is 4 black. And like you have the Beseech, sack an artifact to get a Beseech, and sack an artifact, and you can like chain your Beseeches, so you get free Storm.
Yep.
Because each Beseech is 2 Storm.
Right. Because it
being cast and then the thing it casts. Yeah. Agatha Soul Cauldron. Do you know how much this card is?
I have no idea. I also wasn't quite sure why you put it on the list here. I don't think I've seen this card do anything.
This card is $55.
Holy moly.
There are tons of random combos that Agatha Soul Cauldron does.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked about some of them when we did our set review for this, but I don't think I've seen any lists actually running them.
There are a bunch like floating, or they're on the fringes.
Yeah.
Admittedly, but there are a bunch of them floating around.
All right.
And it's just a card that people love.
Yeah.
And like I think it's one of those things.
Cool card.
It's a super cool card, right? Like the fact that it's incidental graveyard hate, like in your like stupid wonky +1/+1 counter combo deck.
Yeah.
In that I was like green white hardened stale is +1/+1 counter deck. This is the graveyard hate I have on my sideboard. it's just a card that like it hasn't blown up, but it has done like little things around the edges.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's $55. Like someone likes it. A lot of someone's like it.
Yeah. Well, it's got the unique, hard to reprint, low mana value. Like it checks all of the boxes for an expensive card.
Oh yeah, right. It's Agatha's Soul Guardian.
Right.
You can't replay it unless you're in Agatha's land.
Right.
And like it is like just a mass of random words.
Yeah. It does something unique. There's no other card that does what it does, and it's only 2 mana. So
yeah.
And then we have Imadane's Recruiter.
So this, going back to Red White Convoke, this fixed its biggest problem.
Haste.
Well, haste, and so it was playing the Surge, Reckless Bushwhacker, the Surge creature, where it was 3 mana, but it only got the +1/+0 if it was surged.
Yep.
Well, this is always a surged Bushwhacker.
Right.
So like this is just kind of the fix to that deck and kind of like pushed Red White Convoke. Maybe not over the top. It's kind of fallen off a little bit, but this is like been a big update for that deck.
Yep.
And it's a card that I've lost to a lot the last couple weeks. So
figured you'd include it.
It's front of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got Mosswood Dread Knight. I love this card.
Who would have thought a unkillable 3/2 trample could be a problem? Going back to Glissa, right? This, right? Restless Cottage, Glissa, and then Mosswood Dread Knight.
Yeah.
Right, kind of hold that like those rock decks together.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I don't know how often people play this card correctly. You don't know your opponent's hand, but there's a lot of times where I feel like just play like a 3/2 trampler.
Mm-hmm. For
right?
2 mana, absolutely.
There's a lot of people that like always just like draw the card with it.
No. That's not how you play this card.
I agree with you, but I've seen a lot of like turn 2 Mosswood Dread Knight like lose a life, draw a card. It's like I don't know if their hand is like, yeah, we're settling in for a long game, homie. Like, let's go.
It doesn't matter because you're always going to get the value.
You're always going to get it back.
You're going to get your card.
Yeah. But this is just a card that, again, like the green-black, like rock deck.
Yep.
I don't, again, like maybe it's missing like a better 1-drop, like Evolve Sleeper's kind of trash.
Yeah, it's not great.
Maybe that's what it takes.
The problem is that Evolve Sleeper is a mana sink, and like the whole deck's full of mana sinks.
Yeah. But like in terms of like what would it take to get green-black over the hump?
Yeah.
And to be like on par with red-black, and it kind of can't be a black 1-drop.
Right.
Because then it just goes in red-black.
Right.
Right? So it like has to be something like green and good. And like the deck doesn't play elves, because that's like not what it's about. But yeah, that card is good times. Mm-hmm. Now, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We have what is arguably the linchpin of what some people say is the best deck in... Well, it's not arguably the linchpin, but it's arguably in the best deck in Pioneer, and that's Amalia. But Avide's Aguirre.
Sure. We'll go with it.
I think it's Aguirre because I worked with someone who I'm pretty sure had the same last name.
Right.
So we're going to go with that. Gain a Life Explorer paired with Lyle Grove Walker. When she gets up to 20 power, everything gets blown up.
Combo.
Now, you don't win the game right away. You're left with a big that can be blocked and whatnot, but it's still a big.
Mm-hmm.
And you've blown up your opponent's board and probably drawn yourself 4 lands.
Also blown up your board for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. Blown up your board, but usually the decks are playing Return to the Rank, so you can kind of like rebuild after the fact. The life gain kind of shuts some decks out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Phoenix has a hard time killing you from 80.
The Discover decks probably can't kill you from 80.
Yeah. So this is just a cool combo piece.
Mm-hmm.
Also, only like 50 cents.
Good reason to pick them up.
So we've had less time with Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So cards that are making an impact are a little bit harder. Bloodletter of Aclazotz. I have had it put in against me with what is his name? Sorin. The 3-mana Sorin. I've had it drop this in.
Okay.
Jim Davis played to not much success, played the mono black Waste Not deck.
Okay.
And his top end was like 2 of these in Shieldred.
Mm-hmm.
It ends the game quick if you have any other board.
Yeah, you know what would also end the game really quick is like curving this into Gary.
Yes, that was an against the odds.
Oh, was it?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that against the odds has already happened. But yes, I'm pretty sure that was an against the odds where you like Gary and it's like, yeah, you're gonna take like 25 or 24. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, just this and Gary's 10, right?
Yeah, like any other like damage along the way.
Yeah.
But no, it is just a pretty. It's in its limited time. It has like found its way into various. I've seen it in Black Red.
Mm-hmm.
Like Black Red apparently gets like 2 spots for like big dumb creatures. So like I've seen this. I've seen Bonehorde Drekisaur.
Yeah,
it's just it's just like I get a fun of spot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I get to pick any of these cards that have been power crept in the last like 2 years. So I'm going to pick this one.
Yeah.
The next card is a reprint, but Cavern of Souls.
Yeah.
Right? It's important. It's mana fixing, right? Can make spirits better.
Yep. Enables all of the whatever we're calling them now decks.
Yeah, typal.
No, there's a new word, isn't there?
Kindred is the replacement for tribal as a card
mechanic.
type.
Yep.
As a card type.
Yep.
Typal is a replacement for tribal as like, oh, this is my typal Merfolk deck.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've played against like, 4 and 5 color humans decks that like if your deck is like all creatures and like you get to play 5 or 12 rainbow lands.
Yeah. Your mana is just perfect all the time.
Yeah, you get to cast all of your things all of the time.
Yep. And the reason it's on the list is because it got put into Pioneer with this reprint.
Mm-hmm. And Standard. This is kind of a wild card to have in Standard. Like, if your 2 main creatures that you ramp into in your ramp deck are angels, you get to always resolve your Atraxa. Right. The best way to deal with an Atraxa was Disdainful Stroke.
Yep.
It's like, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Cavern of Souls.
Yep. And then we got kind of a trio of cards. We're going to talk about all of the good Discover cards.
All of the ones that made a deck.
Yep.
So you have
got Geological Appraiser, Quintorius Can, the Planeswalker, and Trumpeting Carnosaur. Yep.
So Cascade has always been a busted mechanic.
Yep.
And I guess it is slightly worse when the spell has to resolve before you get the Cascade.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still pretty good. It does open up the option to have you copy the things that after they have resolved. Which is
also, like, there were times playing Jund or whatever where you would cascade into a card that you didn't necessarily want to cast, and then that card is just lost forever. And with Discover, you get to put it in your hand if you don't want to cast it.
And so, kind of similar to the Beanstalk argument, the fact that we have printed a bunch of cards with high mana values that get cast for less.
Yep.
Or that channel effectively. In Trumpeting Carnosaur's case.
Yep.
you get to get around the restriction that is put on your deck by Discover. Right? Like, when it's fun and random, yay. But when it's always the same thing, it's a bit degenerate.
Yep.
So we have already seen Geological Appraiser banned.
Yep.
I don't think these decks are good enough to push back into older formats.
No, I don't think so.
But, like, these decks have been the story of Pioneer / Explorer for the last month.
Absolutely.
And so that's saying something.
Mm-hmm. And then we got one more card here. Tishana's Tidebinder.
I regret to inform you all that we missed this in the preview because I did not see this as a modern staple.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I was wrong. I done goofed. This is a modern staple, a flash stifle is pretty good.
Yep.
Like the number of random things it gets, like counter your ring trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Counter Mengu is like new Tidebinder Fear unlocked. Having Adeline's make a token trigger countered. Mm-hmm. And it's ending up with an 0-4 permanently. Right, like this card has just seen not as much Pioneer play. Like I don't think I've seen it like resolved against me in Explorer once.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But in like Modern, it is a pretty impactful card. Like you see it resolved pretty frequently, and like random shells you wouldn't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it like just shuts down like really impactful things. Like, hey, I like played my 7-mana card, and like, cool. I will counter its activated ability, and you have a 7-mana paperweight. Congratulations. My turn, kill you. Like, I thought this was like a Merfolk card that would do funny Merfolk things.
Well, it's because it has the type of Merfolk on it.
Yeah, maybe I would have thought of it differently if it was a human wizard.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, oh my god, it goes in like every human's deck.
Right.
But this doesn't matter about its type, right? It just matters that its text box is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another card where they're like, what if we throw Flash on it? Like, I know they have to make this card work.
Right, yeah.
But, like, throw Flash on it.
Sure.
Like, let's have another Flash thing. It's fun.
Yeah,
like,
pretty,
I don't know
aggressively costed for what it does.
Yes. Yes, like, I don't know, like, when we get to the point where where there's, like, an actually good Flash deck. But, like, I feel like we're getting the pieces.
Yeah, we got to be getting close.
Yes. I don't know how good rogues can be with like the graveyard being used kind of as much as it is. Like, oh, I'm going to mill you out. Like, bring back 4 Phoenixes and kill you. I'll bring back my Parhelion and kill you. But, like, you know, this Fairy Mastermind, you know, Brazen Borrower, never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you just have all these blue things that are just like, oh, I have Flash and do, like, dumb stuff.
Tricksy stuff.
Yeah, I do tricksy stuff, yeah. So, I don't think we need to talk about the decks that matter. We kind of touched on them as we went.
Yeah, we talked about all of them as we went through the cards, I think. I don't think there's anything in there that we didn't talk about, so.
Yeah. But, you know, we kind of went over, if you're a patron, you can see kind of the list of, like, kind of the decks that mattered this year. But we talked about all of them.
Yeah.
You know, Convoke, Green Black Rock, various Atraxa stuffs, Amalian Pioneer, Rakdos Midrange and Pioneer, Scam, Rest in Peace, Fury.
Yep.
X1s, thank you. Praise your death. And then the Cascade decks in Modern. And I'm sure there are some other decks in Pioneer, but it's hard. Like, where does, like, you know, especially like in Standard with like the long rotation now, like Esper's been a deck for like 2 years.
Right.
And like that's not like
to be in a deck too.
Yeah, it's not like it's a deck from this year.
Right.
It's like kind of hard. Like, yes, these decks mattered in these formats, but they like weren't decks that kind of like became a thing. Like I think Cascade and Rhinos and Living Ends like changed a lot because of like the cyclers.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the stuff's like, what are kind of the new decks? We kind of went over all of those. So there you go. There is a year in review of all the cards that mattered, or at least Brian thought mattered when he made this list. Cards
job,
people play and explore.
That's right.
Cards people have like streamed a bunch.
Card of the year, Atraxa.
For standard, but you're right. It's the ring.
Yeah.
It's the one ring. I totally forgot about it. I was just thinking about what are standard cards.
Yeah.
It's so weird, right? Because for years, it was what cards came out in the standard sets.
Right.
That's where your card of the year came from. And it's like, well, no, actually,
yeah,
we're going to have this other card that exists over in this other place that is completely and totally busted.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for like Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy to like to just blow things open. How are they gonna work around Barrett with his gun arm? Or how short will Tifa's skirt be? Things we have to know. How old is Yuffie? It can only be an awkward number. Like, for how she is drawn, she should not be 14. Tell me otherwise. But yeah, so it is awkward being like, hey, the most impactful card, the card that people will remember, is a card that never sniffed standard.
Right.
But you're right, it is the One Ring. So,
yay,
with
supplemental
all that,
products.
Yay, supplemental products. With all that, I think we got a show. So if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, all that stuff, say hi, give us some show ideas, let us know what's going on. We greatly appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, links are in the description. Hit us up if you're looking to support the show. First way, doesn't cost you guys anything, is our TCG Player affiliate link. You're going to be buying stuff for your decks anyway. You might as well buy on TCG Player, help the show out as you go at it. CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Anything you purchase after getting to TCG Player through that link will help to support the show, and we would appreciate that. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. You can chip a couple bucks in, you get access to our show notes, you get access to our pre-show, and when I have stuff to send out to you guys, you're on my mailing list. So if you like any of that, or if you just want to show your support, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internet.
So I